The McDonald brothers of Louisville built this jail for $4,000 in 1891. If you look around the state, you will find that the McDonald brothers built a lot of jails and courthouses in those days. For example, they built the courthouse in Columbia, Kentucky. They built things to last back then. This jail, sometimes jokingly called the Rock Mansion, was the third jail for Bullitt County, and there have been 3 built since this one. Yet this old jail has outlasted them all, except for the brand new 300-bed jail built in 2002, just a couple of miles south of here on Highway 61. This structure was used until 1947, and even a few times after that, but they sure don't build them like this anymore. This old stone jail even outlasted the county courthouse that was built a few years after the jail in 1900, just a few yards away from where you're standing. Can you imagine that at one time, this jail, which is still at its original location, was sitting alone, some distance from anything? Most of the old courthouse was torn down in 2003 to make way for the new courthouse building next to us now. The county saved the front part of the old courthouse and incorporated it as the front of the new building. That old section now houses the first ever Bullitt County History Museum. Be sure to visit it sometime too. Yet, this old jail building remains as an example of how it once was. This old stone jail was built with solid sandstone rock in the walls, doors, and even the ceiling, as well as with thick steel bars and doors. There was a 7-lock system in opening the jail. The building's only purpose was to prevent escape. Ideas about prisoner rights in those days were not quite what they are today. And it did prevent escape, most of the time. There were several attempts and even a few successful escapes over the years. If I recall one story right, one night while the jailer was away, an ingenious prisoner took ashes and soot from the pot-bellied stove, like the one you see in the hallway, removed his clothes, and blackened his entire body. There were no cameras watching prisoners then, as security cameras are watching you now. There was no electricity in those days, no lights, no air conditioner, and no heat except for the stove and baking summer sun. The jail was a terrible oven in summer and was numbingly cold in winter. Since the jailer only came around at eating time, he would open the cell doors to the hall at night to give the prisoners some room to spread out. He arrived early one morning at breakfast with his basket of food. He ordered all prisoners into their cells, cranked the cells shut with the mechanism outside, and looked through the peephole of the door to see if the hallway was clear. But the jailer did not see the blackened prisoner hidden behind the stove in the shadows. He proceeded to unlock the 7-lock system and started in with his basket. The black-suited prisoner dashed by, knocking both the jailer and the basket to the ground. He ran down the street but was soon apprehended, still naked and carrying his clothes. It must have been quite a sight. I suspect he then got to spend some time in what was known as the hot box, or sweat box. As I say, prisoners' rights weren't too good back then. Criminals were sometimes put in a 22-inch wide cell outside here by the chimney. Take a look at it when you go out. It is said a fire would sometimes be set next to the cell to punish a bad prisoner or to sweat out a confession from uncooperative ones. That usually heated the confession out of even the worst kind of alcohol, and sadly, perhaps even some innocent prisoners. While no nationally famous outlaws were ever housed here, we do know that in earlier times, Jesse James graced us with his presence when we housed him in the old stone bank that was being used temporarily as a jail. Jesse had a lot of family in these parts, especially in Nelson County, and he often visited. The old bank still exists today and houses a small business located on Putnam Street near the river next to the city park. In 1910, someone slipped some inmates a hacksaw blade through the window grill. They worked feverishly through the night and actually sawed through the grill door.